Hey, what's going on guys? It's Amara, and in today's video I'm going to be going through 3 reasons why your store may not be converting. So why your e-com store may not be converting. So let's jump right in, shall we? So a lot of e-com sites I see online look exactly like this bucket. People are pretty much just pissing away most of their traffic, excuse my French. But to be honest with you, if you can implement some of these tactics I'm going to share with you, you'll be able to keep as much of your prospects and turn them into customers, right? There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to convert 100% of your prospects. Everyone tells you that, just run away, because that's not possible. But what you want to do is maximize your conversions as much as you can. So let's jump into the first one. The first one is having unclear call to actions. And I see this time and time again. You know, you have so many things going on your site and people don't necessarily know exactly what to do. Second one is about limited or no social proof on your website, and we're going to dig into that. And the third one is about having too much friction in your checkout process. So let's talk about call to actions. So what is a call to action? So the simple definition of a call to action is that it refers to the next step you want your prospect to take, right? So it's that simple. What is the next step you want your prospect to take? And everything on that page should be focused on getting your prospect to take that next step, right? As opposed to diverting the attention to so many other things. So just bear this in mind, especially when you're thinking about designing a call to action. What is the next step you want them to take? Now, the way I kind of think about it, an acronym that helps me is using this called OBV, right? OBV, OBV. So the first letter in the acronym stands for one action. So on your landing page, in terms of the next step you want them to take, it needs to be designed as a one action, right? One thing they need to do, not several things they need to do, just one thing they need to do in order to get to the next step. And then you want to use a big button. Sometimes people use like oblongs, you just want to use a square button. That's worked time and time again. And that's what you want to use. Use a big button that can be missed. You don't want to get too creative about it. This is a tried and tested solutions. Buttons work. So you want to use that. You want to make them super visible. So make them super visible. It shouldn't be hard for people to find the button to click, right? So here's what Yahoo looked a while ago, right? Before Google came out with their search engine. You can see it's so hard to find out exactly what the call to action is here. So I don't know, has anyone got any guesses? It's really hard. Obviously you can see the search button over there, but you'd have to look really hard, right? So you're just making this super hard for people to actually get to the next step. Until Google came out with the very clean page that just has one bar, and over here, you know exactly what to do. Just go in there, type in what you want to type in, and then click enter. And Bob's your uncle. Now you've got a page of all the results, and you can just trawl through them and go to the one that's relevant for you. So you can see the difference between that and that, right? So this is exactly what I mean by just making it very simple. Just one obvious action, make it simple, make it visible, and make it big. And then after Yahoo realized the mistake, they obviously looked at what Google had done and decided to take it a step further, but I guess it's a little bit too late for them. I appreciate these are not e-com examples. We're going to get to the e-com examples very soon, but I just wanted to show you these so that you can use this as an example of what to do when you're thinking about call to actions. Just think about the Yahoo and Google example, and that should steer you in the right direction. So let's jump into the e-com examples. So over here, we've got an example of what not to do. So this brand, they've got a call to action, add to cart, that can't really be differentiated on the page, right? So you've got to really zoom in to understand, okay, what are these guys trying to tell me to do? Do they want me to buy using Google Pay, or do they want me to add to cart? So the thing about this is, the reason why this is not really good is because the add to cart isn't very clear. And also, the majority of people who are going to be landing on your store may not necessarily have Google Pay, right? Some may have Apple Pay, some may just want to pay by PayPal, some may want to use a credit card. So looking at this through the lens of our OBV acronym, so you want to have one action there rather than two. So what I'll do is remove this buy with Google Pay. Also, you want to have one big button. The button is fairly big, but what I want to do is just make it a bit more visible. And what I'll do if I own the store is to color in the button, right? So make it the same color as perhaps this face moisturizer, this brown color over here, or even darker, something to contrast the background of the website itself. And then add to cart can be in white, if that makes sense. So make it big, make it visible, and have it as one action. So over here, we've got the next example. We've got 2 actions to take as opposed to just one action. Add to cart, buy now. If I own this, what I'll do is just remove the buy it now, just have an add to cart. So one action, make the button big. In this case, that's the case. So the button is big, is obvious, and make it visible. So where it falls flat here is that it's offering 2 actions as opposed to 1. So let's roll into examples where brands have done this really well. And the first one I want to share with you is from a brand called Flow. And you might think, okay, well, there's quite a few actions over here. But the thing I want to point out here is that, you're just selecting whether you want to subscribe, whether you want to have it as a 1-month supply or a 2-month supply or one-time supply, right? So this is different from the add to cart. And what I like about this is that in terms of sort of getting that recurring income, they have defaulted to subscribe and save as opposed to having this as a 1-month supply or one-off purchase. So this is something that you can incorporate into your brands as well, especially if you're thinking about extending your customer lifetime value. Have the default option as subscribe and save. But in terms of the call to action in terms of the next step is very clear, because this has already been selected for them. So someone could easily just come in here and just click add to cart. The next example is from another brand I really like called Crave. I like what they've done here. Very clean, and a call to action can't be missed. So it's over here, add to cart. It could be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. So you can see that you can just choose what you want in terms of the number of the items you want, the number of units, and you can just add to cart. So I really like this. It's very clean, sort of ticks all the boxes. Not as big as I've liked in terms of the button, but that's okay. They're going for the minimal vibe. So here's another example from Crave, and one thing I think that's worth pointing out is that they've got the add to cart as a floating element on mobile, right? So as someone is scrolling down, you want the add to cart to always be at the bottom, and that would enable them actually add to cart. So I think this is something that's very good. It's a very nifty idea, and I think this is something you want to incorporate into your website. So rather than having multiple add to carts across the website, so across the length of your website, you want to just have it as a floating object or floating element so that people can just add to cart whenever they're ready. So that's something I think you guys should consider. So we've talked about add to carts, but before we go on to the next topic, let's just review what we've learned. We talked about the acronym OBV. You want to have one action for the prospect to take. You want to make sure that you've got a big button for them to take that action with. So they just need to press that button, click the button, and you want to make the button super visible, right? And I showed the examples of brands who have not done this and why it could be costing them conversion, and also brands that have done this really well. So I suggest you have a look at these brands yourself, and also keep an eye out for brands that you may like, brands that you've gone to on their website and had a really good experience for and seen some of these tactics implemented. So the next thing we're going to dive into is social proof. How can you gather more social proof, right? So why is social proof so important? People are more likely to take an action, especially when they know that other people have taken that action and benefited from it. Right. So as much as we think that we make decisions by ourselves, our thoughts are super original, I'm afraid not. The majority of our thoughts are influenced by our environment. So, if you go onto Amazon, you're more likely to buy something, all things equal, you're more likely to buy a product that has a better review than another product, right? So if a product has a 4.8 and another product has a 4, if everything is equal, all the variables are equal, you're more likely to go for the one that's 4.8. And if you read through the reviews, you're more likely to go with one that has glowing reviews. So it's important to bear that in mind. And since this is just an undeniable aspect of human nature, you want to figure out how to incorporate it onto your website. So let's dive into examples of how people have done this and what you can do to improve your social proof. So here's another example from Crave. And I like what they've done here. They've used a video testimonial to induce social proof. So they've got a guy here, he's using the moisturizer. It's a video, and I like the way they've actually used the video. It's not just your box standard video. They've got this Instagram handle there. They've got the skin concerns, basically the pain points around why he used the product, the age, and also a quote from the testimonial itself. This is a really good way. It makes it super native, right? It makes it super native, not too try hard. And it's something that's worth looking into. So if someone wants to check out this person to actually see whether it's actually a legit testimonial, they could go to his Instagram and have a look. So I think that's really good. So this is something that you want to do, gather as many UGCs in terms of video testimonials from your customers. And one way to do this is to actually have an email in your post-purchase sequence where you're requested for these video testimonials. It could also give your customers a 20% discount or whatever you can afford in order to gather these. Because as far as I'm concerned, these assets are the most valuable assets you can have in your business. Over here, we've got an example from Soylent. So these guys do meal replacements. So what they're leveraging here is what's called as seen in, right? So you usually see on websites, they've got a bar that says, as seen in this, Walmart, seen in Amazon, or, New York Times, or whatever, right? So over here, they've got that. So available at, they're not calling it as seen in, but, it's available at Amazon, Walmart, Target. And as much as they're telling you it's available there, they're also using this as social proof. Right, so this is something that you should also bear in mind. They're using this as social proof as well as telling you that it's also there. One thing to bear in mind though, one mistake you want to avoid is that when you're leveraging this type of social proof, you want to bear in mind that the contrast on the logo shouldn't be that high, right? You want a low contrast, right? It should be there. People should understand what you're trying to convey, but not be too attracted to it in order to want to find out whether the product is really on Amazon and they end up leaving your site for that, right? So you want to make the CTA the main thing. Over here is called just find Soylent, right? So make the CTA the main thing, make it super big, make it obvious, make it visible. However, these ones, you just want to make sure that they understand that, you've got some social proof, right? So just reduce the contrast on it. As you can see, they've grayed out these logos, right? These are not how normally the logos look. So gray out logos, reduce the contrast, and remove the links. Don't put any links in them. Don't sort of link out to Amazon or Walmart or Target, because people are just gonna, leave your site and go on there, and you may actually get distracted by other products on those sites, right? So you want to keep them on your site and edge them closer to checkout. So that's just one thing I thought I would mention. All right, going on to the next example. Here's one from Glossier. What I really like about this is that they're leveraging reviews. Reviews are so important. And what I particularly like about this is that not only are they gathering reviews from customers, but they're also gathering other data points like skin type, age range, skin tone, right? If you're in the beauty business, this is something that you should certainly be considering, because you're going to be getting, reviews from customers, and they're going to be saying, okay, look, I've got this particular skin type, I've got this particular skin tone, and here's my experience. Not only is this going to benefit your business in terms of gathering all this data and understanding how your products are affecting your customers, but other customers or prospects who are trying to buy from you will get a better understanding of how the product is going to affect them. So you certainly want to be using reviews, but add more value to your reviews rather than just having the box standard reviews. And a tool you can actually use for this is called Yotpo. So I would highly recommend, if you want to use reviews on your site, use Yotpo to gather reviews. So we're going to touch on the last thing that might be holding you back from converting more customers, or holding your website back from converting more customers. And simply put, it may just be that you have too much friction in your checkout process. So how can you reduce the friction in your checkout process, right? You want to make it as frictionless as possible and just have a super highway leading to the purchase. So I'm going to share a few ideas that might help you achieve just that. So the first idea here is similar to what we talked about in terms of having a clear call to action. You want to have a clear call to action in your cart. So over here, we've got 3 call to actions. One is to check out, one is to pay with Shop Pay, and one is to pay with Google Pay, right? So I don't think it's necessary to highlight Shop Pay and Google Pay here. You can do so when they're ready to pay. But right now, the thing you want your prospect to do is just to head to checkout, right? That's the one thing you want them to do. So borrowing from the idea I shared earlier in terms of having a clear call to action, you want to have a clear call to action in your cart. So if I was this brand, I would remove the Shop Pay as well as the Google Pay, right? And also reduce the amount of distractions you have over here. There's too many distractions, so I'll just eliminate all this stuff over here. And I'll show you a brand that's done this pretty well, and other stories, they have handled this very well. They've only got one call to action, and this is very clear. So continue to check out. And although they've got other links in here, these links actually pop up. So they're not taking to another page. They pop up and you can X out of them, which is pretty good. So, and also they've made it very subtle. So just basically, you have to really want to think about returning and refunds to want to click on that. So it's not imposing. The main thing that they've made visible over here is the continue to check out. So that's something to consider in your cart. Now, when it comes to the payments side of things, you want to offer multiple options for payments, right? We talked about the fact that they had multiple options for payments here. This would have been good to have over here, right? And this is something that Apple does very well. So there's actually a screenshot from Apple. You guys have probably seen this, especially if you've bought an iPhone or Mac. Apple have several options to enable you pick from, which one would suit you best in terms of paying for the product. And one thing that they've got as well, which I really like, is that they've got the ability for you to, pay using credit, so defer payments. And this is something that you certainly want to incorporate into your e-com store. How are you allowing people to defer payments or pay at a later date or spread their payments over time? Well, I'm going to recommend two companies that enable you to do this for e-com. One's called Klarna and one's called Lay-By. So if you're thinking about offering financing, this is something you certainly want to do. So offer multiple options for payments, once it comes to, the payment section of your checkout, not before, in the payment section of your checkout. And offer, options like Klarna or Lay-By to enable people who aren't necessarily willing to just pay upfront using their credit card or PayPal. They can then spread their payments or pay at a deferred date, a later date using Klarna or Lay-By. So I'm going to go back to the example I shared with you earlier with regards to making sure that you've only got one call to action there. And I'm going to contradict myself because actually this can work in certain situations, right? In certain circumstances, having two add to carts with add to cart and buy, having two call to actions with add to cart and buy now can actually work. So I'll show you an example of where it actually works. And you've probably come across this already. You've probably bought stuff on Amazon. If you have, you've come across this. Amazon has add to cart and buy now. Why does it work for them? Well, they're differentiating between the two actions, right? There's not reducing the cognitive load there for the customer. So if customer wants to add to cart, add to basket in this case, they know what to do. They just click on that. And buy now, they just click on that, as opposed to having both of them as the same color. So if you are going to implement this on your store, then it's best to have them in different colors. Just wanted to share this with you because it wouldn't seem complete if I didn't, because there are examples where it can work. Having two call to actions on your page can work, but just make sure you're differentiating between the two, right? And put in more emphasis on the one you want to happen. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some ideas to take back to your businesses and implement on your website in order to improve your conversions and boost your sales. So if you like this sort of videos, do consider subscribing, and until next time, take care.